I'm excited to talk about it today.
Same here. In episode 12 of the Block to Block podcast, the
Yes,
best
sir.
podcast in the world for all things Web3. Here, we break down the technology, what's going on in the market, and the ways in which you can benefit. I am NFT and Jai.
And I'm Web3 Wayne.
And over here, the talk is different.
Always, always. But before we get to that different talk, y'all know what time it is. Listen, this podcast is for general information purposes only. In no event will we be liable for any loss or damage derived from the information provided. Please conduct your own due diligence and consult a financial advisor and or any other certified professionals. We just giving you game. This is not financial advice. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. Crazy week. Crazy week in the world of Web3, in the world of crypto. Man.
Whew. Hey man, listen, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared at all, man. And it really does that shoot, you play with fire, you're gonna get burned. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You play with fire, you're gonna get burned. And right now the house is burning for a few people.
For a few folk. And just for y'all to know, FTX, which used to be the second largest crypto exchange, is on the brink of collapse.
Mm, mm.
Yeah,
So when we say they're on the brink of collapse, get the people exactly what's going down. Give them the 1-2 before we get into it.
okay, most definitely. So I actually posted a clip on both the YouTube and our IG at Block to Block Podcast on IG, and it went crazy because the president and CEO of FTX, SBF or Sam Bankford Freed, he talked about like how the company is going through a liquidity crunch. A liquidity crunch is just a fancy term to say that your organization does not have the cash reserves or the capital to cover the demand of your customers. They ain't got no bread and they're insolvent.
Mm,
So it's
mm.
it's actually a very crazy saga at how we've gotten to this point. And it's a very interesting story, I would like to say, of friendship, rivalries, betrayal,
Mm,
politics,
mm.
and a downturn of an empire.
Hey man, it's crazy because it's so many different pieces and players that are all kind of intertwined, intermingled, and intermixed. Like FTX was really one of the top players in Web3 and crypto, especially as an exchange. Like you said, they were the number two, but
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, they had some major institutions backing them, right? Some
Major institutions.
VCs, investors, other exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
And
Crazy. Yeah, so just so at this point, the company is essentially insolvent. The president SBF, he lost like over 94% of his net worth. He was like a billionaire at like 16 billion. Now he's like on the verge of declaring bankruptcy, like all in like within a day. And what's crazy about it is just to give you all some context of how we got here, right? So let's start with just talking about like the president SBF, right? He he has like a background in like trading and like arbitrage trading, which is just like finding like different assets like stocks and whatnot and trading it for like a profit. That was his background. He had some experience working in a company, and then he got into like crypto specifically when he started doing this for Bitcoin, and that led to him starting his first company, Alameda Research, which is very important to note for later on in this story. But he got his feet wet into crypto. He really focused more so on like the trading side of things, of like trading cryptocurrencies, and that led to the growth of FTX, right? And FTX, funny enough, their first and one of their biggest investors was Binance, which we know
mm,
is the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the
Mhm.
world right
Editing.
now. Yeah. So like I said, a story of friendship, right? Because they was cool. They invested in them. FTX really made the niche of saying we're a platform that was built by traders for traders, like people who are interested in like trading crypto and getting this profit, right? But just like all these like Hollywood movie stories, like once the money start, more money, more problems in the word of the notorious B.I.G.
Absolutely.
Like the relationship between SBF, the founder of FTX, and CZ, who's the founder of Binance, it's soured. Like to the point where we were seeing them even like publicly beef on Twitter like they some rappers. So their relationship soured. And one of the main reasons for this is because, as we know, and as we covered in the podcast a couple of times, regulation is coming. The U.S. government is really looking at the space of Web3, specifically crypto, and they're
Yep.
just trying to get a handle on it because right now it's the wild, wild west. Everybody's just like doing a whole bunch of things. There's a lot of money being made, a lot of money being lost, cybersecurity. So the government's really trying to get a handle of it. So once again, shameless plug, watch every episode of Block to Block because we talked about like on episode 3, the White House had like that report on the environmental impact of crypto to
Yep.
climate change. And like we just talked about how the SEC is investigating Board 8 Yacht Club in like episode either 7 or 8. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
they
one of the quick takes talked about some of the um just how the government, I can't think exactly which episode. I want to say it might have been episode 9 or 10. But the government is already starting to put some parameters around it, right? Like who's gonna handle certain things, right? If it's a crypto or an NFT and is acting as a security, if there's some equity attached to it, then
mm-hmm.
the SEC is going to follow the SEC. If it's more
Yep.
so like a collectible trade, traded good type of deal, then it would be the FCC, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely go back and look at those episodes. Like Mamadou said, we've already, started talking about how the government is starting to look at crypto and really get into the space.
Absolutely. So regulations like coming into play, and as you know, as the government usually does, they're gonna like talk with like who's the biggest players in the space, and once again, FTX was number 2, so they're talking with like all these huge crypto folk, and there's
And also,
allegations. Oh, go
and
ahead.
also, wait, also too, to add to that, SBF, his mom and dad are regulators, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm,
So he also has some familiarity and some background, in that regulation space, regulation game as well.
right. Politics,
Yep,
politics and business go hand in hand.
hand in
So
hand.
there was speculation on the side of CZ, who's the president of Binance, that SBF was essentially putting them under the bus, right?
Mhm.
And saying essentially like how Binance in particular, like they may have interests or ties with China because CZ, he who's the president of Binance, he's like Chinese Canadian, which is kind of a
Mhm.
crazy allegation to put out there. It could be true, we don't know, but as we know, like the US and China has this huge geopolitical tension, so like those kind of things are going to like really make the government more so scrutinize that company. And
Yeah.
so, and then CZ was saying like he's just also like selling out the rest of the entire crypto community. And
Mm.
remember this, Binance was the first investor in FTX. So they had a lot of equity, but like sometime prior, they said, we don't want your equity anymore. And in exchange of the equity that they owned in the company, um, FTX gave them their token, like FTT, oh,
Okay.
nearly 600 million worth of that token.
Wow.
So, mind you, like
Wow.
they've already been having like this public beef. Like now, you talking to the boys saying like I'm tired of China, and you're trying to really put me under the bus. All right, you want to? I'll show you thunder. My West
Yeah.
African know that. Like they started to do was publicly say, hey, we no longer want this FTT token. so I'm gonna sell it all off. And it was like huge major reports like
I
FTX.
mean,
I mean, Binance is selling over nearly 600 million worth of the token, and they just flooded the market.
I'm about to say that's a signal if one of your biggest competitors, uh the company that initially invested with you is saying, hey, I'm pulling out. I'm getting out of this. I'm leaving. That's a red flag. I understand why people was like, wait, hold on, what's going on? We also need to get up out of here because
Yeah,
these guys who are the top dogs is saying the second dog is not something that's worth them holding. I can
yeah,
see why that's a huge announcement.
yeah. So they flooded the market, and like you said, everybody else was like, "Oh, okay, maybe I need to pull out my bread." So everybody started pulling out from FTX, which made a
Mm,
bank run. So once again, go back to episode one, and like Ben Dow, right, is similar situation with a bank run, and this like caused essentially their balance sheet to be really messed up. Like it put them
mm,
in a really bad predicament. And
mm.
so that was like a huge issue, right? And then remember that company I mentioned at the very beginning, SBF's first company, Alameda Research,
Yep,
turned
yep.
on their balance sheet, they mostly have this FTT token. And that's like really like their assets, that's their collateral that they use, which
Oh wow.
and they weren't transparent or upfront about that either. So it caused like an issue where people were like, hold up, like you Alameda Group, research group, is like a huge investor in Solana.
Oh
And
man. So now
right,
like dominoes falling. This what we were saying, folks, is it's a lot of different connected parts that is just with this one company.
yeah,
I know we've guys asking like, what does this mean for crypto? How can we, get involved and take advantage of this, or should I be getting out of, just that and the third? The short answer, and what you're hearing today, is how does this affect the space? Well, a lot of major players are going to be affected from this.
a lot of major players.
A lot of that was a lot of money that was put into FTX, that was invested into FTX. And so, at this point in time, it sounds like they're on the brink of bankruptcy, if not already in that process or close to
Right,
going into that
right.
process. So most of the billions of dollars that have been invested are not going to be recouped, right? That's gone. It's out of there.
I mean, and they try to have a saving grace too, man. So after all of this nonsense, after all of this drama, right? Guess what happens?
Uh-oh.
FTX turns back to Binance after Binance essentially
Man.
was a major player in like their downfall. They turned to them and was like, "Yo, can we let bygones be bygones? And can you help?" And Binance said, "Okay, we're gonna put in this non-Biden letter of intent, saying that we will purchase your company and will cover your liquidity crunch."
So now the top competitor is going to have the inside scoop on everything inside their company, pretty much. That's what I'm hearing is like, they at this point, they didn't really have a choice, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they didn't really have a choice,
the
but
company was about to be bankrupt,
this is true. This is true. So I mean, what happened with Binance? So did
yeah,
Binance say,
bro.
hey, like we out of here? What happened? What's going on?
So when you offer to buy any kind of company, you're gonna like do your due diligence and like research the books, research the company, make sure everything is fine and dandy before you can like purchase it. And not even 48 hours, Binance pulled out of the deal and said, "Listen, y'all financials is too jacked up for us to be
Too
buying,
messy.
so we're not even proceeding." And so now here we are. FTX is like on the brink of economic collapse.
Mm.
The SBF, the president, is like financially ruined. Like the entire crypto space went crazy because once again, with like Solana, that coin dropped by over 40%. The
Wow.
entire crypto market went down crazy.
Wow.
Bitcoin, the top crypto in the space, dropped down to 16,000.
Ooh, woo.
It was the lowest of low since November 2020.
Jeez.
Bro, like the entire
Jeez.
space went crazy, and
Yeah, I
essentially,
might go give me some Bitcoin though. Some
big
Bitcoin Lana though. While I
fact,
got
big fact.
discounts out there.
A lot of discounts, big
Exactly.
facts. But yo, like remember, FTX was like number two when
Yep.
all this stuff was happening, and like Binance was capping, like not capping, but when they put in their intent to say, "Hey, we may buy you," FTX was listed as number four.
Ooh.
Last I checked, they weren't even on the top 10. I don't even know if they're on the list anymore of top
I was
crypto
about to say,
exchanges.
I don't even think they're present. They're an afterthought at this point. I thought.
Man,
So I mean,
overall,
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. What you gonna say?
I would say that overall to simplify this, think of this like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. And like, let's say Coca-Cola invested in Pepsi and had a huge equity stake in Pepsi, and Pepsi got run off at the mouth, and Coca-Cola was like, "All right, we're just going to ruin your company financially," and then offer to buy it, and then say, "You know what? We're not going to buy you no more."
Yeah, yeah.
It's a crazy time.
I think this is also a tale of when people get greedy,
Yeah,
right? And people overplay their hands. Because I think a big part of the story is really what set this all in motion, right? Which was SBF being, in Gary Gensler's office. You don't know who that is. That's the head of the SEC. Uh,
hmm
in his office, basically trying to throw salt in Binance's game, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, it started with greed because they already are the number two exchange platform in the world, right?
right.
And they do that, right? To get to number one, maybe yes, right? They knock off Binance, they're number one. They knock off, what they were essentially trying to do from what it seems outside looking in is create a regulatory monopoly, within America, right? Saying this is how, the America or the U.S. government, the SEC, whoever should be looking at crypto, and in those talks, making sure to set FTX up to be, the only exchange really that's noteworthy within the U.S. And I mean, again, you can do that, right? I mean, that's part of the game. If you're in business, you're in business to win. You're in business to make the most amount of money as possible. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast when you're in business. But at the same time, this is the classic case. Somebody being greedy, somebody overplaying their hand, somebody who, is really not uh they didn't really take a step back and take a look at the whole board, and somebody who thought they were smarter than everybody, right? I think that's the big piece too is, SBF went to MIT and was a trader and this whole thing, and have like this savior complex of like, I'm gonna, give away $2 billion, and you feel like you're smarter than everybody. You feel like exactly what you need to do. But again, the I think this is where a little bit of he could have benefited from some street smarts right here. Like, come on, man. You like you said earlier, you can't bite the hand that feeds you. Like,
You
he could
can't
have said,
stand on the dude that fronted you. Like
you
that don't make no sense.
can't run off because what you gonna do? How you gonna get more, right? How you gonna get more money? How you gonna stay alive? How you gonna you
Exactly.
know,
Now, for you, the viewer, right? Because I know it's like, dang, this is like some huge business drama that belongs in the shade room. Shout out to the shade room. Um, but there are like three big lessons that I want everybody to take away from this story. Number one, you cannot have bad relationships with any party who has significant leverage over you. So once again, Binance had like close to $600 million worth of FTX's token, and and they were able to like really drop down the value because of just a result of pettiness. Like you're souring the relationships tremendously, so they had this leverage and they just took you out.
Yep.
So never, like you said too, don't bite the hand that feeds you. If they have significant leverage over you, don't play yourself.
Don't play it. So
Number two, for all those who have interest in crypto, you buy crypto, what have you, we've been screaming this for multiple episodes. Do not keep your crypto assets in these exchanges. You can patronize these exchanges and buy your crypto there. However, once you get it, move it immediately to a your own wallet, a non-custodial wallet like a MetaMask or a Coinbase wallet, or even better, put it in a code wallet, like a hardware wallet where it's like a USB. That's the way in which you can protect your crypto assets. And number three, so going back to Solana, right? There, because of all of this nonsense, their own value dropped by like 40%. So when you're looking at these cryptocurrencies that you're interested in buying, you need to understand which institutions, which companies, which entities have a significant stake in these cryptos because their actions are going to directly impact the value of that crypto. So
yeah,
do your research.
man. But it's funny though because it seemed like FTX, Alameda Research, they had all the right people at
Mm-hmm.
the table. They had
Like
all the right
Superior Capital.
investors, right? And so I will also add to that sometimes, when you're in a nascent space like crypto Web3, um, there's just some things that you can't avoid, and there is the unexpected and that's why the advice that you just gave was great, in terms of diversifying where you're holding your money, right? I mean, at the end of the day, right now, if you get a paycheck, right, you're not going to put all of it into the stock exchange. You're going to make money up from the stock exchange, but that when you're investing and you're thinking about your strategy, you're going to put a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit in the Dow, a little bit in Nasdaq, and you're going to spread that money out so that when one thing kind of makes a move in one direction, you're kind of either protected, right? You don't have your money in there, or you have another asset that's going to do the opposite, or that is going to be a little bit more steady. So to add to that, when you're doing the research as well, look into, hey, how does this crypto move in relations to other cryptos that I'm invested in, right? Or other assets that I have, right? Like if you're looking at wanting to invest in crypto, that shouldn't be your main investment. That should be, you're more aggressive, like it's going to be volatile, that you put your money in the right places. This might get you 20, 30x returns versus stock market. I think it's like 8%, 10% on average. So definitely diversify. I think you gave some great takeaways.
Yeah,
Uh, it really something for people to just digest and look into. For
definitely.
sure.
In fact, you actually inspired a bonus takeaway, right?
Okay.
Like when we are talking about stocks, for example, there's this concept of fundamental analysis where you evaluate the overall business. And one of the key things you do in fundamental analysis is you look at the management. Who is at the top of the leadership helm? Like,
Mm,
what's their track record? How do they act? And because that's going to have a direct impact on the value of that company, right?
right.
So
Right.
the same rules apply when it comes to crypto. Same rules apply. Like so once again, like looking at these exchanges, looking at these any organization you want to patronize, like look at the leadership. Like, oh, are there individuals who are like very business savvy? Do they make great relationships? Or do they, for lack of a better term, sour relationships and
Mm,
just act a little unconventional? I'll be nice. So
But I mean, look, at the same time, man, which is crazy, is like I feel like this man should. I don't know. I'm not a prosecutor, but you talking about billions of dollars that you've lost to people's money. That sounds like jail time to me.
oh, well, I didn't
Hey,
even mention this, but
look,
the SEC and the Department of Justice are investigating them. They've been doing a probe for months because they're like, yo, how did you handle the deposits of your clients? Like, were you messing with their money? Like, they're really investigating. So we don't
mm,
know what will occur out of this.
mm, mm. But I was saying all that because this man will probably get out of jail and get more investment.
The
But
space is
that's
crazy.
look, that's neither here nor there. I won't get too wrapped up into that, growth mindset. We're not worried about him. We
Absolutely.
just gonna wish him the best because I wouldn't be in his position right now.
Definitely. Yeah. And, but all of this, right? I had this one friend of mine. Actually, shout out to Candace, the CEO of Zate Night, which is a dope company that focuses on creating different date activities and opportunities for couples specifically. So shout out to Zate Night. She reached out to me and other people as well, and they had this really good question of like, one, what's going on? Because all these cryptos are like dropping like crazy. Is there a point to cryptocurrency? Is there true value in cryptocurrency?
Mm.
And I definitely want us to like turn the conversation there. And before I do so, let me just give you some statistics because as we mentioned with all of the activity that was occurring with FTX, Bitcoin fell almost 11% and hit an all-time low of 16,000. Ethereum fell
All
15%.
hold on, it's an all-time low.
Well, not an all-time low, but it's like
Yeah.
one of the lowest of lows since 2020 of
Oh,
November.
okay.
So that like a new low. Ethereum fell over 15%. Solana fell over 40%. And the crypto market was just feeling the pain,
Out. I'm about to say down and out.
down and out. So it looks very negative from the outside looking in, especially if you don't really follow the stuff. They're
Yep.
like the number two player of crypto exchanges fell down. You have all of these cyber attacks as well. Cryptocurrency keeps going up and down in price. Like,
Yep.
is there a point to cryptocurrency? Like, is this valuable? And I want you to like kick us off, Derek. Yes or no?
Say, of course, of course, of course, of course, of course. And the quick take today is going to give some further proof as to why. On top of what I'll say now, which is, at the end of the day, this is money innovation, right?
Hmm.
Is um, maybe at some point going to replace our cash, and if not replace our cash, is going to be definitely interwoven into our financial system, which it already is, if we're being honest, right? You watch any financial news, anything like that, they're looking at crypto, they're looking at how those prices are moving, they're following those trends as well. And this is, a matter of 10 years. I mean, it feels like the last couple years it's just been more and more, just like everywhere, people pushing it. But again, what we always preach on here is to not get too caught up into the day-to-day, the daily, into the rigmarole of the people who are gonna react to the extreme level every time something happens, right? The main thing that we want you guys to focus on is the technology, right? The underlying technology is what's important, and it's the reason crypto is here to stay. And crypto is not a scam because that underlying technology solves a big issue within the financial system, right? Which is the double spend, problem, which right now we have to go through a bank for us to get that validation, or for that payment to be settled, for them to say, okay, this is the amount they had, this is the amount they gave, this is the amount that each party has, right? With crypto, it takes out that middleman, which is huge because it makes um, peer-to-peer lending or peer-to-peer transactions 10 times easier, right? We're taking out the middleman and replacing it with technology. So my very long-winded answer is crypto is here to stay. Crypto is now a part of the financial system. Make sure, like Mamadou said, make sure you're doing your research. We're giving you all the game on what you need to look for in a research on the back end side, right? And then you go talk to a financial advisor, and they'll make it make sense when it comes to the actual numbers and kind of charting out some of those financial history points that we don't have expertise, and I'm sure some of the listeners, you won't have the expertise, but you can sit there and have a very good, thoughtful conversation of like, these are the companies that I'm looking at, and this is how I want to invest. So yeah, very long winded answer. What you think, Mom? Dude, well, you think this crypto thing a scam?
No, not at all. Because as you mentioned, the real power of crypto, NFTs, everything else is the underlying technology of the blockchain. Because with blockchain technology, instead of traditionally where one organization would have their own central database with all the data and keep the secrets to themselves, the blockchain is a network that is public to all. And like you said, it verifies transactions, it verifies data, it verifies ownership. Like, it is like one of the most transparent forms of technology that we've seen thus far. And so that technology is what really makes cryptocurrency valuable. Once again,
Mm,
I'm always going to say this: the way in which we analyze crypto networks is have to do it as we do with like stocks, real estate, businesses, any asset class, right? Like, you have to do your own research. This is the time, especially like in a recessionary time, like companies who just have bad business models are gonna go under, as we're seeing this year. Companies that don't have good security infrastructure is gonna be going bad as well.
yeah,
And the cryptocurrencies that really have no intrinsic value and like no plan for adoption, like, and no one's really checking out for them, they're not going to do well
they going underwater.
underwater, because there's thousands of different cryptocurrencies out there. I've
Hmm.
seen all types of crypto. I even seen, no, I'm not even joking, I literally saw a red pill crypto for
I
like the
thought you,
whole.
yeah, a coon crypto or something. I was about to say, oh, here we go, here we
No,
go.
no, but I saw the red pill, for the red pill community. Like, realistically, I don't think that's gonna like take off for real, for real. But there's all types of crypto for all types of communities, like
Yeah,
all over the world. You
yeah,
need to look at the ones that have the strongest chances of longevity, right? Like, shout out to Cardano, they have a plan. Shout out to Ethereum, they have a plan. Bitcoin's the biggest, they're the top dog, right? You need to, when it
Lana.
comes to crypto, you really need to look at it. You really have to do your own research. So I'll say it's here to stay, but like the losers, like the ones that just have no value and low plan for adoption, they're gonna go to the wayside. So you gotta really protect yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's it all makes sense, man. Like you said, some of these cryptos are scams, though. I will
Oh,
say that,
big facts. Like,
but
remember the Squid Game token, the Squid
oh
Game crypto?
man, man,
That was
it's
a straight scam.
it's crazy, man. I felt like for a minute it was every day, just like with NFTs too, right? Like NFTs, certain ones gonna be good, certain ones is gonna be pyramid schemes, it's gonna be scams, it's gonna be, like you're sitting here, basically you gotta get somebody into like your NFT community, buy into this NFT thing. Like, come on now. Come on now. So, like you said, that intrinsic value is really important when we're talking about shoot, not just crypto, whatever, right? Whatever you're doing.
Facts, big
Um,
facts.
if you're what Mamdu likes to say, lead with value. If you're leading with value, then there is it's going to be a lot tougher for somebody to come through and just pull the rug on what you got going on, or what you're invested in, if you will, right?
Absolutely.
And so just make sure that that value is there. Make sure that they're leading with value. Make sure that if you're putting something out there, you're leading with value. You're bringing value to the people that you're serving to bring that value, right? We saw with FTX, um, the value from that went as far financial, so the money stand within, right? And as soon as that value started to decrease, as soon as other players and man, that's a crazy situation. Anyway, as soon as we saw what they hold value for that exchange, as soon as that started to dwindle, there was no value left, right? It really wasn't that intrinsic for them. Versus within Ethereum, right? They're building an ecosystem where it's not just based off of the value of just Ethereum and what they do, but it's based on the value of the ecosystem that they've built around it, right? What gives cash its value? It's the government, right? It's the ecosystem that the government supports. And so I think that's big, a big thing to look at is big for you to understand with crypto. You have these major players like Ethereum, like Bitcoin, like Solana, like Cardano, like XRP, or Ripple. They're building an ecosystem, and they have some ethos that they're building their company around, that really gives you that nod, like, okay, hey, this is what you should be looking at. Even the Polygon, I mean, we love our Polygon over here. But I digress. I digress.
Yeah.
I digress.
So with that, man, I think the people are interested in your quick take because
Okay.
you have some proof of why cryptocurrency is still
Well,
valuable.
do y'all want the quick take? Do you want it? Do you really want it?
Let them
Well,
hear
look,
it.
like, comment, subscribe, and please share with your people. Please share with your people. Don't be stingy.
Right,
Don't
don't
be.
be stingy. We're available on YouTube. We're available on audio as well on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. So
Yep.
hey, show love on the YouTube. Subscribe, please. Show love on those audio platforms as well. Share with your loved ones because we want the entire culture to get this knowledge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that, I will go to my quick take for the day. And guys, we got a good one. It's related to what we were talking about, right? So we'll talk about today the research that the Feds recently did on CBDCs. And if you don't know what that is the central bank digital currencies. So for some time now, federal governments, not just in America, but across the world, have been looking into central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, right? So basically, them creating their own cryptocurrencies to be used as cash, right? Or to use, I don't want to say to replace cash, but maybe as a side to cash, right? As a one-to-one to cash, right? Um, and so recently, there was some research that was done, an experiment that was conducted by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, right? And it looked into specifically how could cryptos, more specifically CBDCs, affect foreign exchange transactions, right? So when we're talking about converting money from uh, one one currency to another, right? So right now, that total foreign exchange transaction process takes about 2 days. From the experiment, they found that with CBDCs that can get down to 10 seconds. 10 seconds, right? And so when we talk about the technology and the underlying, value of that technology and why crypto is here to stay, this is what we mean. Technology, right? You can now, when we're talking about, those transactions, what comes to mind for me is remittances, right? And that's something that we've seen some companies start building around. When you're sending money back home, you don't have to use these antiquated, slow processing, systems that are in place currently. You can send through, crypto or, whatever, a CBDC, right? And it goes from, you know, maybe 2 days, right? Maybe a couple weeks, who knows, to 10 seconds. Right. And we all know when a lot of times when family, asks for money, they're in a jam, right? So that that time makes a difference. So if I can immediately send money back and take care of my people, then there's something there. There's something there. So getting back to the article, so like I said, the transactions dropped from foreign exchange transactions, they dropped from 2 days to 10 seconds, right? So this research, the effort was launched by the New York Fed's New York Innovation Center. So they were the one that hosted the experiment. And in the simulated example, they could lower the speeds of transactions with multiple participants and observers, right? So the Federal Reserve has been grappling with this question, you know, can or should we issue a CBDC? I mean, they've been looking at that for years, right? So what we're seeing is we've already seen on the business side a lot of adoption, a lot of businesses starting to look into research how we use crypto, how can we integrate NFTs, how can we use this technology. Now the government is getting deeper and deeper into that research as well, at how can this technology help to push us forward as well. So, we're not just seeing it in business. It's not just the scammers, it's the government. And I don't know if there's too much of a difference, but that's not for me to decide, right? But we are seeing that they are getting deeper and deeper into this crypto world and understanding its uses, right? So the Biden administration hasn't indicated uh, what the Fed should do. So honestly, they're like, look, if it's in national interest, then we don't see a problem with us taking this route. Just make sure that we're checking the boxes, dotting the I's, crossing the T's. Um, and really, I think for the Fed, for them, they don't want to make any moves without Congress's blessing. So the Fed officials have basically indicated that, hey, we're going to wait for Congress to authorize a digital dollar before moving forward. But what I will say, what is the major takeaway from this quick take today is cryptocurrency, like we said before, is here to stay. Not only that, I think it is, apparent and imperative, right? That we need to make sure that everyone is educated. If you're not, looking into crypto yet, if you don't understand it, I'm always going to shameless plug. You need to be tuning into this podcast because we're giving you the free game, free game. I'm still trying to convince NFT and Jai to let us charge y'all for this, but he won't let me. So make sure you tune in for that free game, man. We're gonna keep giving it to you, because it's not just going to be something that some 19-year-old in the base off of. That's not what this is going to be. It's going to be something that's central to our everyday lives. It's going to be the same as Apple Pay or whatever, your credit cards. Like, this is that next step. So make sure you're ready, and you can do that by tuning in, like, comment, subscribe, and share Block the Block podcast. And that's a quick take for the day.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, like you said, man, who else is out here on a weekly basis
Every
getting
week.
down the technology? We're not using any of these complicated terms of it's immutable and a non-fungible token. And nah, we're just breaking that down, man. NFT is just a digital certification that you own something.
Yep.
Boom. Immutable means you can't edit it. It's permanent. Boom. We
Come
break it
on,
out simple, man.
come on, preach,
Man,
preach. I need to get the you know what I'm saying? When you start spitting bars like that,
Don
I need
DeMarco.
to, yeah, I need it. I need it. I might have to get my what's that man name? The freestyles. He be talking ish while they freestyling. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about.
Are you talking about Smack?
No, man, not smack, man. When people go
They don't know anything about that.
hey, I'm gonna just leave it where it's at. I'll remember eventually.
Right, right. You gotta tell us next week.
Next week. Next week.
Oh man. But yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that. Like we said, man, you gotta pay attention to who's moving into space. The big money players, the from the government to these multi-billion-dollar corporations, they're
Yeah.
finding ways to use this technology. So if they're gonna do it, why shouldn't you?
Why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't you? And you know what? You know how you can do that? Mama do give them the market update. Listen to this market update. That's one way you can start getting involved.
Right. So we already talked about the cryptocurrency side of things, right? Of how a lot of these coins dropped in value because of FTX's activity. However, looking at the NFT market, like we really saw like it didn't have that big of an impact. So
Mm,
specifically speaking, right? So let me pull it up. The overall total sales of NFTs for the 7 day period was like 36,309 sales, which is only down by 0.04% from the previous week.
mm,
So virtually, it's like virtually the same. The same amount of NFTs was sold within this period. And the total value of those NFTs that was sold equate to like 25.6 million, which is
mm.
only down 1.63%. So like almost 2%. So
Yeah.
it's
It-
very interesting, man. Like when it comes to these NFT projects, like they've consistently for the last couple of weeks haven't really dropped too much in value.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's still trending downward. I will say that. It's still trending
Right.
downward. But, you know, it's starting to slow down a little bit. I think we've kind of seen that across the board too, in other parts of the economy. Um, things are kind of calming down a little bit. The kind of see the sun, a little sliver of sun poking through. It's still really cloudy, but you can at least know that the rain is slowing down. It's maybe a light drizzle and some sun poking through. So
Just a little bit, a little bit. I mean, but
yeah,
don't get it twisted, man. We're still in recessionary times, which
absolutely.
is an opportunity. Like now more than ever, people need real solutions. So if you can package like your NFT projects, whatever it is that you're doing, into something that's truly valuable and that solves legitimate problems, you'll be ahead of the curve. So, shoot, that's even a free game.
That's a free game right there. Build, baby. Build, build, build. As we always preaching, we always gonna say build, experiment, get into the game early and scared away, if things don't work. It takes time when you got a new technology and you're coming in early. But once you figure it out, you're miles and leagues ahead of your competition. And at the end of the day, we in it to win it. We
And
in it
it's
to win it.
absolutely. So yeah, man, I think we can end on that note. Another episode, legendary classics every week, baby. Every Thursday, we're out here dropping these gems
Boss!
because we're the best podcast in the world for all things Web3.
Yes, sir. And
Man,
all y'all need to know, the talk is different. Every week,
Always.
different.
All right, we're signing out. I'm NFT and Jai.
And I'm Web3 Wayne.
Peace.